Can a simple mask totally transform your backgrounds? Let's find out. Let's get crafting. Now I'm starting out with this really old Vicky Bouton mixed media set. I got this at Tuesday Morning ages ago. You know how long they've been closed. So this one has a few dies that go with the set. So I'm choosing the large flower. If you don't have dies, but you have a simple image that you can easily fussy cut, that works fine. Now I'm using this rock, paper, scissors, removable label, and sticker paper. If you have Masking Magic by Gina K, by all means you can use that. This is just a really cheap alternative. I have die cut probably 10 or so of the large florals, and I'm just removing the sticker paper backer. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. And I'm just plopping them onto my cardstock. This is an A2 panel. I am using watercolor cardstock, but you can certainly use whatever you've got. And you want to make sure that you're putting some of your masks over the edge because it looks not as forced. And then I'm just kind of filling in the spaces. If I have something that's overlapping, I go ahead and stick it down, flip it over, and cut off the remainder, and I'll use that remainder elsewhere. I have done this to both pieces of my watercolor cardstock because why not make 2? I am using saltwater taffy, squeezed lemonade, and peacock feathers as my colors of choice. These are Distress Oxides, but any ink you have will work. For the first panel, I am starting off with saltwater taffy, and I'm going to do some very simple ink blending right over the masks. To be sure that you're going to get some crisp masking, do make sure that you have pressed down all of the edges on your label paper or masking paper, whatever you're using. And I'm just starting by getting some color down on my background. I like Distress Oxides because I like the opacity. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that these are my favorite types of ink, and I typically use them as opposed to dye-based inks. They're okay. I have some of the Distress inks as well, but I just really like the creamy, dreamy nature of the Distress Oxides. Some of you have reached out and said you have problems with ink blending, and this is what I do. I do ink blending at the top, I flip it around, I clean off my glass board, and then do the bottom. So I'm using peacock feathers here, and I am keeping my fingers out of that still wet, fresh saltwater taffy ink. Distress Oxides are a hybrid. They're part pigment ink and part dye. The pigment ink stays wetter for longer. So keep your fingers out of it, use a Post-it note, use an acrylic block, use the lid from one of your inks, but keep your fingers out of the fresh ink. Then after I've got my bottom done, then I go to the center. And here I think I bring a piece of paper in, I'm not even sure. It's really never the same thing twice because I just grab whatever I have handy. Oh, I'm using an acrylic block. Okay, perfect. It keeps my fingers out and it holds down my paper. And it didn't dawn on me until after I completed my cards. Girlfriend, you have got a brand new sticky mat. I should have used it and I forgot, but that's okay. I'll remember next time. Now, to get that better blend, I am using watercolor cardstock. I find it's just better for ink blending. And I'm blending the yellow squeezed lemonade up into the peacock feathers and then down into the saltwater taffy. And then I'll go back and forth to get that nice blend. Of course, the yellow and blue make green. So I get a whole new color out of it with only using 2. This project was already starting off not quite going the way that I wanted. As you can see, the green really got pulled down into the yellow, but I'm going to run with it. I know it's kind of a mistake in my eyes, but it turns out lovely and, well, it didn't really matter in the long run. For the second option, instead of doing lined ink blending, I'm just placing some ink splotches on my cardstock around all of those masks. I start off by using squeezed lemonade, and I do this in a triangular shape. Triangles look nice. Your eye gravitates towards the points, and, well, I like the way it looks too. So I'm trying to stick with my triangular method here. I don't know if it's going to carry on because I've still got that third color, but we'll check it out and see. And move your cardstock. Don't be afraid. If your hand doesn't bend one way or another, mine doesn't, I have to turn the cardstock to make it work for me, and that's perfectly okay. Tidy up, that way you don't get messes on your cards. Here we go. We're going to go with the saltwater taffy next. Fill in with your third and final color any parts of the cardstock that don't already have ink on them, and do some light blending into the other two colors as well. That way you avoid some harsh lines. Hey y'all, I'm Wendy from Village Card and Craft, and I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I've been keeping a secret though. Your incredible support of my channel has given me the confidence to step up and be a guest speaker on this year's Cardmakers Success Summit. This is a virtual event that is free and is going to air from March the 20th through the 23rd of 2025. It truly is a dream come true. I've been a participant for quite some time now, and now I get to be an instructor. If you're looking to refresh your creativity, master new techniques, or simply craft alongside a supportive community, this is the event for you. With over 40 free classes taught by talented card makers, you're going to walk away with fresh ideas, motivation, and you're going to be able to take your card making to the next level. I can't wait to share my session with you. Thanks to your support, I get to be a part of this wonderful event. I'm going to leave the link in the description box below so that you can grab your free ticket for this 4-day event today. With all of our ink blending done and the ink being dry, I'm going to go ahead and remove our sticker paper and just look at the lovely stark lines that you get with this. I love the reveal. It's always my favorite part. The next step, I'm using a stamp positioner, but if you don't have one, that's fine. You can use an acrylic block. I'm just a klutz, so a stamp positioner works better for me. I'm just lining up my stamp that went along with that die cut, and once I figure out, there it goes, I'm going to go, maybe. Once I figure that out, I'm going to go ahead and use that stamp. Now for the first example, this is the lined blending one, but it doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up my stamp, and I'm going to ink that up. Now I'm just pressing it down to make sure I don't have any bubbles. I'm using VersaFine Black Onyx ink for this very first example, and I've already dropped it and gotten my thumbs into it, but if you ever get ink on you, use some gel hand sanitizer. It sits on my desk all the time because I get inky fingers more times than I care to admit, and it does take off the vast majority of it. Now I'm just giving it some good pressure, and I like what I see. But if you want to go ahead and add some more ink, you're certainly welcome to. You can double stamp this if you've got a stamp positioner. If not, well, then it's a one and done sort of scenario. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamp because I need to line it up to the other masked areas. And I'm going to have to turn it so I don't want ink on it. Now to complete this particular card panel, I'm going to line up my stamp for each of the masked areas and go ahead and stamp in those spots. Now for this particular one, as I ink up the stamp, you're going to see that I have a problem with it. And if you have a stamp positioning platform, it's easily fixable. You see, I didn't get a good impression because my magnet was in the way. I simply move it out of the way and restamp it, and it comes out perfectly. Now, don't be afraid to turn your cardstock around and reposition it in the stamp positioning tool itself, because you might find that it's easier to do that in the long run. I've moved my card up, realigned it, and I'm going to get ink all over my platform, but that's okay. I use the water-based stamp cleaner from Ranger to clean this off, and it comes out pretty well. Be sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to show you these as finished cards. Now for the next example, I'm going to use some Versamark and some gold embossing powder, and you're going to see what a dramatic difference this makes. I have recently re-inked my Versamark ink pad. Now this is a clear sticky ink that you can use with your embossing powders, and it's pretty juicy, and you're going to see that. Normally you probably wouldn't see it as well on the cardstock, but in this case you can see it pretty well. And where I put all the ink down at once the last time, I'm not going to do that for this card because I would probably mess up where the ink is laid down. So each stamp, I'm going to go ahead and use my embossing powders. This one's gold by Ranger. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that. And that's where I realized that I forgot to use my embossing bag, but that's okay. We'll use it for the rest, and it still turned out just fine. I kind of flick it off and use a little paintbrush, and well, all's well that ends well. Before heat embossing, definitely put any remaining embossing powders back into the little pot and close it off. And for another tip, always, always, always heat up your embossing tool for about 15 seconds before you use it. Now I have finished this up just by doing the exact same thing, and check out the dramatic differences between the two. I'm using 100-pound accent opaque cardstock for my card bases. They are top folding. I have a 65-pound Recollections black card panel that I'm going to leave the full A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to slightly cut down my floral panel here. So I think this one turns out to be 4 by 5 1/4. And it'll give it a nice black edge all the way around. I am using my favorite Barely Art Precision Craft Glue with the precision tip. And once again, my glue bottle is running out. So some people have asked me about whether or not this glue dries matte finish or glossy. It does have a glossy finish, but don't let that deter you. I'm using the precision tip, which gives a really fine line of glue. I don't put the glue directly on the edge of my cardstock. It's about 1/4 of an inch in from the edge. That way, when it flattens out, it's not going to seep out of the edges. Now, this is a birthday wishes stamp set for a previous video I had left over, and it's going to work perfectly because the black and the white in that sentiment match the black and the white floral that we have. I'm not going for any added dimension. I think that the sentiment and the florals complement one another beautifully. To finish the second card off, I'm going to use a metallic gold panel to complement our gold flowers, and I have cut the top panel out with a Spellbinders postage stamp die set to give it a little bit of added interest. Now this is a sentiment that I've selected from my sentiment book, and I'm going to cut it down with a complementary die from the same postage stamp die set that I used earlier. And if you're interested in getting your hands on those sentiments, I am offering a free sentiment sampler when you attend the Card Makers Success Summit. And you can get the free sampler by joining the free virtual event. And there are tons of giveaways, tons of freebies that so many of the talented card makers are offering just for attending the classes. So I hope you take me up on that offer. And I'm just using the same precision craft glue. Now, I'm going to show you that I got a little too close to the edge for this one, and I do have some glue seep out from the lower right-hand side. I try to wipe it off with my finger, but it leaves a mark on the metallic cardstock. So all I'm going to do is use a damp paper towel sprayed with just a little bit of water, and I'm going to wipe it off, and no harm, no foul. Comes off beautifully, and you'll never know that I had a little oopsie. Unlike the first card, I've opted to pop this one up with some foam tape. Just gonna decide on my placement and give it a firm push, and there you have it, both cards. Which one do you like the best? Tell me in the comments below. Don't go just yet. I've selected a couple of videos that I think you're gonna enjoy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.